another live, which is chat. So I do got a couple things to talk about today. Um, we're on a whole new level. And I'm also going to talk about a couple of things that have been brought up about ancestor work. Other than that, we're just kind of going to chill for probably about 30 minutes. Um, but for the people that do not know, hi, hello, I am Fire Lotus. I've been doing these for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years. I started out on Facebook, and this year, in the beginning of this month, I transitioned over here on TikTok. I mean, wow, on YouTube. Obviously, I have a TikTok addiction. Um, so yeah, I've been a practitioner for 18 years. Hello, and on these we kind of talk about everything except for politics, and sometimes we talk about world events. So for one, somebody tagged me in a video yesterday, and I completely fell down a rabbit hole. The Watu, I think it's called the Watu something. Basically, this is something that I did not even know. And when I in this one, I will post a blog post or a podcast episode to this on about what I'm about to talk about. So there was this paranormal case that was documented in, I believe, the 19th century, not 19th century, like the Victorian age, I believe, in Illinois. That is bummer. Sorry about that. Hello. So this is interesting because we all know about the exorcism, right? We all know about the exorcism, and we also all know about the Bell Witch. If you don't, those are two really good things to look up. The Exorcism movie franchise was actually based off of a book that supposedly took place in upstate Maryland, here in the United States. But it was a boy instead of a girl. This particular case, on the other hand, holy shit. So, for one, it is actually in the public domain, so you can easily, and I want to say it's the Watuska experiment or phenomenon. But basically, it was very well documented. You have this one family that lived in this one house, and then their daughter, I think at the age of 12, died, right? After she had weird experiences happen, right? So fast forward 12 years later, another girl living in the different area in this town in Illinois started experiencing episodes and having fits. Well, back then it was literally the start and the movement of the spiritual movement of the Fox sisters. The whole moving Ouija boards, taking photos, and seeing this. Hello, and seeing ectoplasma, all of that in the Victorian ages of the spiritual movement. I'm a newcomer to your channel. Welcome, and yes, happy Thursday. Um, so in this thing, the girl that started having episodes all of a sudden starts acting like this 12-year-old girl who has been dead for like 12 years. And it gets creepier than that because the parents of the dead girl show up at their house and basically start to go like, they're like, well, you should just come live with us. That in itself is weird. But what's weirder, as they're walking back to their new house, do you get that a lot? Do I get what a lot? New to my channel? Yes. Slowly. I've slowly been growing this YouTube channel. I'm really excited about it. But all of a sudden, as they're walking back, they pass the original house that this family and the dead girl that has now stepped in, the living girl, was like, well, what are you doing? This is our house. And they're like, no, we moved. We don't live here longer. No, I mean people saying that you have beautiful eyes. Oh, thank you. And yes, I do. I get that comment a lot when I wear eyeliner. But thank you though. And what this is for one, it's one of the oldest recorded paranormal experiences, I believe, here in the United States. Okay. But what's even crazier about this is it's the definition of a step-in. So and yes, I'm about to reference a TV show. If y'all ever watched Ghost Whisperer, you know what I'm talking about with the step-in. Lerman's terms, basically the most basic definition of a step-in is when either two spirits agree. So, like, a spirit comes up to me and, like, basically says, yo, let me step in. So, it's it's a possession, but almost on equal terms. But with this particular case, what's interesting is after I think 8 months of this other spirit basically possessing this woman, she completely just snapped completely back. And it's so insane. Like, we listened to a podcast last night, the Ashley Summers Supernatural podcast. It's like 30 minutes long. But there's another one by Astonishing Legends. If y'all have not listened to that podcast, you're going to love them. But they do a 1 and 2 part on it, which I'll tag in the comments of this. It blew my mind and sent me down a rabbit hole. Because, see, with the Bell Witch, it's supposed to be another very, very well-documented paranormal case. And I've heard, this also comes from the book, but the movie that they made, An American Haunting the Bell Witch, if you go to the commentary and the special features, they have, like, them talking about it. And supposedly in the Bell Witch, it is the only documented case of a spirit taking the life of a living person. And see, that's a huge thing with paranormal, because besides scratching and, like, being possessed, spirits are not supposed to be able to harm us, especially taking our own lives. So I fell down a complete rabbit hole. And then, to slightly change it, we're going to get back to this too, but to slightly change this, I saw a video today on TikTok that I thought was fake. I wished it was fake, which was basically this creator just going off on this Etsy store because of what their services are. And when I say this, they have over 100, I think it was 169 sales with over 60 comments or reviews on this. The entire store is selling, wait for it, adoptions of spirits. Do you work with lust deities? If so, which ones? No, I do not actually work with a lot of deities. I work with Hecate sometimes. I work with Freya a lot. And then there are a few other ones that I work with. But it also depends on my spell work and or the custom spells that I do. Like the love spell that I did yesterday, which I do not do a lot of them. With the specific one that I did yesterday, I called upon, oh my god, who did I call upon? My brain is just, oh my god, brain. It's a deity of love. Well, for some reason I'm not supposed to be talking about this apparently, but depending on my spell work, I will ask certain deities to step in and offer some extra energy. There have been sometimes I've worked with Lilith, but other than that, no. But this store is selling, and I'm only going to say this name once, Wendigo Adoptions. But wait, it gets worse. They literally went through every culture imaginable right now and took the spirits and folklore and offered them to sell their spirits. Or, I'm sorry, to adopt them. They have adoption for witches' spirits. I want to know how that works. They have an adoption for demons. They have an adoption for incubus and succubus, hellhounds, so many other fucking things. And for one, culturally wrong. For two, no, it doesn't work that way at all. Yeah, it's an online store on Etsy. But it's so weird because, like, I deep dive in this because if I see a store like that, I will use it as an educational point of that is the definition of a snake oil salesman. What I mean by this is, for one, from what I understand by the bio, this person is not even native. Primarily to do with the whole W terms. Bro, don't let me distract you from finishing what you have to say. Sorry, I'm like that a lot. But yeah, like, it's an online store, and the comments were like, yes, I felt this energy, and I'm not hating. Like, I do understand that there are things like this, but to sell it, that would be like me charging $100 to send you a hellhound for your guardian. I mean, theoretically, if we're going to talk about magic terms, more than likely what they're doing are making egregores and selling them. But this is the prime reason of what they're doing. I am Fire Lotus. Or is what I go by as Fire Lotus. No, I'm just kind of hyped up. I'm kind of having a little manic, not manic, but like mental high right now. Um, but like the amount of responses, and I'm like $60 for a W spirit. Egregore, yes, egregores and servitors. Okay. When I said that, my
I found this on the web.
alrighty then, I somehow just activated my Google. Um, but I could see it as in a servitor sense, like you're creating a servitor under a servant and sending it. But at the same time, this is like the creator, which no hate to him because I've actually talked to him about it, but it's like the creator who got stirred a shit ton of controversy by showing people how to summon an incubus and a succubus as a pet, basically. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Like, I'm not saying all incubus and succubus are evil or anything like that because I don't work with them, but at the same time, like, no, this is how you hurt and harm somebody. Do you think anybody can create a servitor? I don't think so, but it's because I have absolutely no visualizations. Yes, if done properly with the energy work, yes, I do 100%. Now, what's interesting in the creator that I'm about to mention, I actually don't like that much, but that's my own personal stuff. But it was interesting because they were trying to figure that out for the people because on TikTok, a lot of people, including me, I did not know that everybody visualizes things differently and or just can't like visually visualize things. Witchfoot, the creator, Witchfoot, she actually created a service to try to see if she could help people like that. Um, but yes, I do believe as long as somebody actually did the research and knows how to manipulate energy, I totally believe anybody could. Um, but with that though, there are routine. You have to kind of set up a routine with it. It's kind of like the services that the service that I provide. We're going to use this jar as an example. Um, so with this jar right here, which is normally what I turn into a honey jar, I look at honey jars also kind of like egregores too, and or like mojo bags. And the reason that I say that is because a mojo, it in itself creates an egregore. It creates a living being, or a sentient being. And you have to regularly feed it, whether that's by anointing it with oil. Same with honey jars. Once a honey jar is created, it becomes into itself a living thing that you have to constantly feed, whether that's through candles, adding more sweet things. Online sellers, for one, the term Wendigo, and that's the last time I'm saying that term, the term Wendigo is specifically from native culture. And for somebody who's not that to sell it, it's kind of like the argument when people. Okay, so where I live or where I'm close to living, in Gainesville, Florida, and before I say this, no hate, but this is how I'm using this as an example. There's an herbal store that I'm not going to name, and the owner behind it has gotten a lot of mixed reviews because this particular owner at one point was living either on one and or close to an Indian reservation, and one of the natives there basically started sharing some of their recipes, herbal recipes. And when that native passed away, this person got one of the books that had all the things in it and then turned around and opened up a store. But it gets more complex because this same person has this awakening story, and I've met this person. I do not like them. My partner, the first time we entered that store, he was attacked. Witch talk is set when hoodoo doesn't exist, and I was like, oh my god, sudden hoodoo doesn't exist. Hoodoo does exist. Um, but for one, a lot of people, to me, that's a snake oil salesman. Bubbers, can you please stop? Thank you. It's a snake oil salesman because for one, this person, with the looking at the legend of the W word, that's not something that you can just like collect and put in a jar. Same with demons, same with witches' spirits. And what I mean, they go into Japanese culture, Irish culture, like banshees, all of that. You can adopt them, and logistically, even in a magical sense, that's not possible to be able to mass produce that. Now, if you were to go somewhere where a legend like that were happen, or like if you were to meet a fae or a fairy, or connect with them, or a land spirit, yes, you can kind of work with them hands on, or kind of come to an agreement, but at the same time, you can't just mass. It's not like you can go out to a garden and like pluck a, I'll say incubus, pluck an incubus out of the ground and then ship it in a box and send it to somebody. So like it's fully energetic. Now some people would compare this with Reiki healers, because with the Reiki healer online, you're not getting a physical thing. It's also like I would do with my spells. With my spells or the community honey jars, you don't get a physical object, but the energetic aspects in it. And then with the custom spell work, I update you through video and or through picture, and then I'll interpret the end of that. But that would be like me saying I went to the Salem Witch Trials Memorial, or where they were born or buried, and I collected all of those witches' souls, so now I'm going to start selling them online. It's a complete scam, basically. In my opinion, it's a full-on scam. And this is one of the reasons, back in the early days, I'll say 2000s, late 2000s actually, when eBay was really, really big and popular, kind of before Amazon came into the picture, and even Etsy at that point, one of the main reasons eBay was really big was because it was the main site for witches to sell their services. Now, obviously, multiple witches and multiple other magical practitioners sold their services. The problem was there were a lot of scammers that you would customly go to them, kind of what I do with my Facebook page, where you come to me and I do the spell myself. And a couple of people tried to sue them over it, and they're like, unless you can ship out a physical object, we no longer will allow this on our sites. And Etsy, they're kind of, due to the drama that PayPal is in with this. If you are a business owner and you offer tarot readings or anything like that, and you have a business account on PayPal, please be careful. I've had multiple practitioners recently where they have been completely banned from using PayPal because of their services and or their transactions have become suspicious. Basically, PayPal is starting to hate on tarot readers and stuff like that. I personally use Cash App, never had a problem with Cash App, knock on wood. And I've used Venmo. I also use PayPal, but I don't have a business account. I have a personal account. But it's just blatantly wrong. And even if they were doing it properly, where they were actually sending these spirits, there are a lot of things listed on that site I would not even want to work with at all. So it's really messed up that somebody would even do that. And it also gives witches like me and other witches who actually do sell our services, it gives us a bad name. It's just like the people on TikTok who picked up a deck of tarot cards that don't actually fully understand how to read them, and they're just making content. What's going to wind up happening is somebody is going to go to one of them, and they're going to get a really, really bad reading. To a person who is not used to this, who's not used to the spiritual world, the witchcraft world, readings and stuff like that, they may take that one reading and be like, well, no, this was just a scam. So it's kind of like the same thing in the 70s and 80s and 90s with all the fucking online psychics, and how like so many people got ripped off by them. So like even nowadays, calling yourself a psychic or a medium, depending on the area that you're at, you're going to be basically judged and automatically seen as a phony, when in reality there's not. And the interesting thing is I've met so many different types of mediums and psychics, and then people who they're extremely gifted, but they will not consider themselves a medium or a psychic. The most interesting one has a radio show, and if I can find a link to them, I'll post it in the comments when I end this live. Um, it's my partner's good family friends. They've known each other, but she's a Christian medium. And those have always fascinated me because there are multiple points in the Bible that basically states if anybody interacts with spirits or ghosts, which there are some aspects of the Bible that basically don't even believe in ghosts, because ghosts, in a Christian stance, if ghosts are real, then how would you explain heaven and hell? They don't really think of purgatory. Um, but she's really, really good at it. And that's kind of, believe it or not, this is what started all of this. There's another amazing store. They also have an online website and or a Facebook page, Blue Crystal. That is BLU, no E, and then Crystal. She's basically my adopted grandmother. And on my 25th or 26th birthday, she bought a reading for me from this medium, not the one that I was talking about, but her best friend. And it's actually kind of what started all of this. They basically told me I'd never worked with my ancestors, and multiple other things around this key moment had happened. I just got out of a 2-year spiritual awakening where like I had so many life events. I had just found 2 crystals, one of them that I had had with me for 10 years, and did not understand that these 2 crystals were great for working with your ancestors. During this reading, and this medium knew nothing of me, she'd never even met me until that day. She gave me a tarot reading and mixed with oracle readings, and she also did not know that my grandmother had passed away 4 months prior to this. My grandmother came through in the reading only because she said things that nobody else would know except for me and my grandmother. And then she's like, your ancestors are there waiting for you. You just have to verbally actually speak that out into the universe that you are ready, you are open and ready to receive. And I went home that night, and literally through that, I started, basically, she kind of gave me the idea of saying, just take 5 minutes out of your day, and like sit down and talk to your ancestors. Well, I took that and elevated it and started the 30-day spiritual challenge. And all that is you take 5 to 10 minutes. I do it in the morning time when I drink coffee, and you sit down and just talk to your ancestors like I'm talking to y'all right now. And what that does over time is it builds a line of communication up, but it also helps both ends, you and your ancestors, figure out a way to interpret those responses. And when I first started doing this, probably about 2 weeks into it, I started getting random scents that would follow me. The very first one was either like a vanilla cigar smell, like a fresh vanilla cigar, and or really, really dark, fresh, brewed, strong coffee. Um, and actually here recently, I'm having this sweet smell, almost like an actual like sugar cookie, but like fresh sugar cookie smell following me around. And after asking some of my family members that are still alive, hey, did grandpa, great grandpa, great grandpa, whatever, did one of them like this specific thing, or did they do this? And through that process, I realized they did. And then it went from that to some of them would show up in my dreams to I would randomly, because I'm clairsentient, which means sometimes I just know things. And they use that. So like with my partner, with him and his father, my father-in-law, I have both freaked them out because I have brought up things about his mother, my partner's mother, who passed away when he was 13. So obviously I never met her, but I have straight up picked up things about her or that she would do or say, and it's freaked both of them out. There was one time that we were at my father-in-law's place, and we were over there for like, I think it was some holiday, and we're all sitting around talking and grilling, and I was like, the old property that we used to live on, the most haunted one I've ever experienced, where she also passed away on, I was like, there's this, I always saw it the first day that I showed up on this property. I was like, I always see these like giant rock structures, something that you'd almost see like in the Midwest with like an alligator skull, a giant bull skull, just to kind of have there with rose bushes. And this man's a Christian. like straight up diehard Southern Baptist Christian. He turned ghost white and looked at my partner and goes, "You told him that, right?" And my partner's like, "No, he told me this." It was something that their mother had wanted to be put there, but never got around to actually successfully finishing it. Um, and then in the same process of that psychic reading, I had a really, really trusted friend, Angel, come to me and be like, "You need to start teaching. Like, just do it." And I was like, "No, I'm not." And then I had like 4 or 5 other people that's like, "No, you're ready. Do it." So I started going live on my personal Facebook and then switched to an actual page, Fire Lotus the Witch. And I got that name 2 years before my spiritual awakening, where I had to go and take care of my grandmother before she passed away. So, like, to look back now, all these things lining up, it's incredible. And then I eventually started selling oracle readings because I've been reading them for about 10 years, 10, 15 years. No, about 10 years. Eventually, probably in the next 2 years, I'll be offering conjure readings with the conjure card deck that I have and tarot readings as well. But I'm better at oracle readings. Um, and then through this, the YouTube was created, my podcast was created, and now I'm here. And what I do primarily on TikTok is educational videos, kind of, which is, I never had a mentor. I had one mentor not growing up. I had one mentor when I started my practice. Literally, this person, I hope one day I can meet her again. She was my mom's friend, though, and she was an ex-witch, as in she used to, but now she doesn't. She actually used to live in Casadega, Florida. Um, and she helped me come out to my mom and explain to my mom that, like, it's not devil worshipping or witch worshipping. So since I didn't have a person that I could ask questions, I started all the content that I do now, which is, there's no such thing as a dumb question. And on TikTok, that's what I'll do. I'll make videos and give little tidbits of where to do research and how to start practicing that research. But there's a lot of misinformation. Like the comment had said, on the French side of TikTok, how hoodoo is not real. Hoodoo is very real, but there are 2 different types of hoodoo. There's traditional hoodoo, and then there's hoodoo that was brought here and kind of transformed out that helped create conjure, southern conjure, bled into Appalachian folk magic. So many interesting things of how the evolutions of that happened. And it's insane because all you have to do is do research. And what I mean by that is, for one, do not use Google. Do not use Google. Yeah. Also, another thing that's controversial. A lot of people have been hating on Pinterest and getting spells and shit like that on Pinterest. To that, I say fuck them. Why? For one, if you are a tarot reader and you want spreads, Pinterest. Pinterest is your best friend. For two, can you find accurate information on Pinterest? Yes, just do cross-referencing in books and other websites. But I also like Pinterest because it can give you an idea for a spell and or ritual and how to do it. Now, with that being said, there are a lot of sigils that are pre-made on Pinterest. I would not use those. If you do, I would tweak them and change them to make sure that, yeah. Also, Tumblr. Tumblr is a really good source when it comes to basic witchcraft stuff. Before Tumblr went to shit, there was a huge... TikTok is basically Tumblr, Facebook, and MySpace combined. Especially some of the communities that they have. But Tumblr can be a good resource as well. There's blog posts. Jake Richards has a blog post. That is the author behind the Backwoods Appalachian Folk Magic. By the way, mark your calendars because he's coming out with another book this August 2022. But I guarantee you, and I'm predicting this now, that book is going to get a lot of hate only because of one reason. The author that, how did they read it? That, like, preferences, or, like, you know, when you have an author who will, like, read over a book to kind of help out. I forwarded it. It's Silver Ravenwolf. And if you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you know who I'm talking about because she was really, really hot scene right there. But she forwarded that book, and that is a very, very controversial person. Especially her work is. I personally used to love her. I I still have one of her books. I have a book. It's a little purple protection book of spells. I went on Amazon because for the people that did not know, if you're interested in any of the books that I have in my collection or library, I have an Amazon wish list that's called the Magic Library, and that's all the books that I have on my shelves. Um, that book on Amazon is almost $1,000, and I have no idea why. Because it's literally like that big. That's it. There's a lot of great information in there, but the problem with not Christopher Pinzak, that's my favorite author. The problem with Silver Ravenwolf is, like, for example, she has this giant thick book, and it's supposed to be this grimoire. It's just an encyclopedia. It's a great book, though. The problem is she's taken a lot of things from other cultures and other authors, and then she's also put out stuff that's just not logical in magic, and it sets up a false preview of what you're going to experience as a witch. And when it comes to a witch, the number one thing that can kill and harm your practice is self-doubt, which is the moment you do your very first spell and it's a dud and it doesn't work and you're like, what did I do wrong? Don't think like that. I mean, yes, critical thinking is great, but at the same time, don't get it in your head that you screwed it up. You have to ask yourself, and when a spell, that's also one of the reasons we're supposed to, like, keep track of the spells that we do. I do not, because I'm more of an extinctual witch. But I have gotten to the point to where I have been recording some of my recipes, my oils, my dust, dirts, and stuff like that. But when a spell fails, before you start doubting yourself, you got to ask, for one, what are you trying to manifest? Is it big? Is it small? And then after that, as I'm saying this, I'm being intertowed because we have a group of crows that come around here, and we have buzzards that come over here, and they're currently having a turf war right now. But you got to ask yourself, is it realistic? Now, what I mean by that is doing a simple candle spell and trying to manifest a car, unless you have entered some type of, like, prize game or something like that. What I mean by that is in most spells and the spells to work the best are to get them to manifest. Like, if you do a prosperity spell, and if you've been following these for a while, you already know what I'm about to say. If you run a business and you do a prosperity spell or a spell to get money in, do not use your name, use your business's name. And then after that, go advertise as much as possible. So what you're doing, and this is what we mean if you hear a witch say there's footwork to do after the spell, it means that the spell is going to send it out into the universe, but we also have to set up those doorways and windows for that to help us and easier to manifest into our life. So if you were to do a job spell to get a new job, right after that, and I'm about to give you some tips too, right after that, fill out as many job applications as possible. With that, if you have a physical copy of that application, you can do this online as well. Glamour it. What I mean by that is just kind of hover your hands over it and be like, no matter where you are on the pile, I am the perfect employee. So that means that it will catch that person's eye. If you go to an interview, now I would say this before COVID, but if you were to go to an interview or a business adventure, when you shake that person's hand, the exact moment you touch their hand, you need to send a thought out, I am the perfect business partner. I am the perfect employer. And those are simple ways that you can use magic without it looking like magic. If you're a business owner, gather powdered sugar. And by the way, if you have a blender, you can create powdered sugar in your blender just by adding regular sugar and just blend it. But get powdered sugar and mix with cinnamon and or sweet cinnamon. Small little picture, lay out all your business stuff, whether that's flyers, business cards, packages, boxes, primarily business cards. And you're going to sprinkle some of that all over it and let it sit there for like 5 minutes, and then obviously get it off so it's not sticky. That's going to help bring that money back in. But that is what we mean by spell work. I mean, that's what we mean by, for one, thinking realistically. So in other words, I'm not going to do a candle spell to get my dream house. Now, I can set that up to where I will do, say, for an entire year on a specific date, on a specific planetary time, I will burn a candle to manifest my dream house. And then obviously, me doing the work on the other end, business, putting up all the doors that are setting up those doorways for possibly this to meet me. And the more you do that, normally the easier that stuff manifests. But you also have to take into account money. I mean, magic does not have an expiration date. Magic does not have a set date. What I mean by that is when if I do magic for anybody, I tell them, for one, magic is not 100% guaranteed. For two, with that being said, I encourage people to at least wait a full lunar cycle before you even see anything come through. That's one of the reasons that the witches who do use the moon, and how I was taught, and somehow it flipped. Originally, you were not supposed to manifest on the full moon because that was technically the ending and the beginning of a moon sign. You were supposed to start on the new moon to set that window up. That way, through every moon cycle, it's coming through. And now it's like just manifest on the full moon. I personally do all of it because I don't really work with the moon cycles that much. Um, I know some practitioners that will wait years for an exact week, for an exact date, for an exact moon phase, for an exact number to fall on that moon phase before they even do a spell. Hold on, I gotta open this window really quick. There we go. It's getting a little bit too toasty in here. But at the same time, there's also magic that can be instant. Prime example of this, we have a crazy cat or crazy neighbor who at one point in time was taking my cats off my property, and basically I have no idea what they were doing with them. And one day, Gemini, one of my male cats outside, he came up and he was limping. And I was like, what the fuck is this? So I randomly went, got a coffee filter, wrote some stuff down on it, basically stating, whoever's hurting my cats, you will reveal yourself to me. I shit you not. All I did was write that on there, grabbed my cauldron, walked out on the front porch, and burned it. That was it. Less than 10 fucking minutes later, this woman comes knocking on my door. She's got a scratch mark right here. And she had the audacity to go, so, your older cat, the big black one? I said, Grandpa? Or his name's Stripes, but nicknamed Grandpa because he's got, like, gray hair everywhere. I'm like, yeah? Why? And she goes, well, I wanted to know if you could help me cage him. No. I was like, for one, no. He's moved a lot, so he knows when he sees a cage what's about to happen. He won't go near one. For two, nobody gave you permission to touch my cats and or remove my cats from this property. And the county and state that we live in, there are no guidelines for having cats outside. I don't have to have a collar on them. I don't have to neuter them or anything like that. I already looked into it. I was like, and I was polite, very polite, until she started cussing me. And I looked at her and I was like, no offense. Nobody told you to touch my cats. You touch them again, I will have the law call out here, and you can get the fuck off my property. Here in Florida, all you have to do to get somebody off your property and to stay off them is to trespass them, which is verbally speaking, you are no longer allowed on my property. And my next door neighbors who have the goats, they were outside, so they heard and saw the entire interaction. And she basically got louder and louder. She's walking off my porch. And I looked at her and I was like, the next time you touch my cats or a single cat goes missing, I will have the cops out here. And they do not like me because I freaked them out. That's story time for another day. But that was instant magic. As in, I literally burned it, and within 5 minutes, poof, she manifested. Luckily, after that one incident, knock on wood, no cats have came missing, and she doesn't even talk to us anymore. And certain things can work like that. But also, you also have to realize, I've done spells when I was like 18, 19, 23, and they haven't manifested until the last 2 years. So when a spell fails, don't always assume it was you. It may just, the cards may be up, still in the air, and they haven't fallen down yet. And or that the line of that manifestation hasn't lined up with what you're doing right now. And these are important things that I don't really teach in books. especially in the earlier generation, when I first got into it, most of the Wiccan books that we had, there's nothing wrong with Wicca, but most of the books that we had, you had a bunch of people saying, look, you do it this way as it is written, or it will not work. Now, that is slightly good because for a beginner witch, the best thing you're going to be able to do is have structure. The more structure you have, the easier it is to learn and to kind of stay focused versus like me, where I am all over the place when it comes to magic, when it comes to what I'm researching, what I'm studying. Um, but at the same time, magic doesn't work that way. Not everybody is going to learn the same. So everybody's going to learn different, aka things will work and things won't work. Earlier in this live, I mentioned the term instinctual magic. My partner helped me kind of come up with that term because I'll go into what I know is, I call a magic mode or mood, where it's almost this trance where my fingers will start tingling. And I literally just go into this trance where I'll go to where all my belongings are at, where there are crystal herb candles and stuff like that. And I'll grab these things, I'll collect them in a basket, and then go to my altar and just set something up and then burn the candle. I do a lot of candle magic. I'll burn the candle and then I'll just let it fully go through. And then after that, a lot of the times I'll look at the things that I wanted, and it's like I don't know what I want, but at the same time I know what I'm trying to manifest. And then I'll double check the correspondences and they'll match up perfectly. I actually had one of my followers reach out and do this for the very first time the other day. And the moment you do that, it it puts so much confidence in your ability. Now that could also be the clairsentience, um, not clairsentience, claircognizance of me just kind of knowing things. But I also like to think it's once you study and research for like 18 years, you're going to pick up stuff to the point where you yourself don't even know you're picking it up. Um, so it's very interesting, and that's what I just mean by instinctual. It naturally comes to me on what to do. I can also do this with plants when I'm in a ritual state, full on ritual, as in circle and all of that, and or compass. I can I can feel it, but I can also visually in my head see plants vibrating. It's very weird. And depending on how high or low that vibration is, I'll know if I need to use that in my practice. And I've had one person be able to actually tell me what that ability is, and then I didn't write it down, so it's been deleted from my mind. Um, but that's what people mean by there is no right or wrong way to do magic, but at the same time, there are certain guidelines. Like, there was this trend saying where, you know, you just set your intention and that's it. You don't need candles, you don't need all this other shit. That's kind of true, but at the same time, it's more than that. Um, and the perfect example to that is I can go out to a poison garden and I can pick angel trumpets and brew 8 flowers into a tea and drink it and set the intention that it will not kill me. I won't be here shortly after that. I believe within 24 hours, I would not be here. And that's what we mean by intention is not everything. Um, you have to do the physical work, and then you also have to do the spiritual work. There's work involved. And I did an experiment where I set it out there that I was going to manifest $100. I got 25 out of that 100 that day. The following day, I woke up and I actually set and conjured a candle, oils, everything with the intent of making $100. I honestly did not think I was going to do it. And then my partner, one of his employees or one of his workers, the people that work for him, contacted me needing work done. And that's when my partner showed up with $100 and he's like, here you go. So there's more than just setting your intention and lighting a candle. Somebody recently just asked me, can I do a cord cutting tutorial? And I thought about it and I'm like, no, because that's the problem that we're having right now. A lot of people think that when we do work, we're literally just like throwing shit on a candle, dousing oil on it and setting it on fire or carving it and boom, that's it. No, we're not. We are working with every single individual essence of all the things that you see on the screen. Whether that is herbs, crystals, dust, powder, color correspondences, all of that, we are tapping into those essences, and it's like alchemy. We're tapping into it, and then we're getting them to dance, and then dance into this perfect harmony, and then we're either pushing that up, we're pushing that outward, or we're pushing that down, depending on what you're doing. We are connecting energetically with those energies, and we are pushing them out. And that is the definition of witchcraft. The definition of witchcraft that I go by is being a witch is learning to manipulate the atoms and ions around you to get a desired outcome, and or manipulating reality to get your desired outcome. Um, and that's what we mean by like work. You have to research, you have to study, but you also have to study and practice the energy work. And I have a couple of videos up on my page now on TikTok and on here of me doing basic, some of the basic starting points of knowing how to use energy work. Um, but yeah, that's kind of, I know that was all over the place. Wow, but I still love it. I love days like this. So tomorrow is Friday, which means I do not know if I will be going live. Friday is a busy day for me, most days. So yeah, but other than that, I will be back on Monday. Um, on top of that, what is today's date? Today is the 27th. Okay, so the 27th, the 31st is the cutoff for the honey jar or honey pot manifestation jar. $5 per petition. Just message me on Instagram and or Facebook and or email me firelotusthewitch@gmail.com if you're interested in that. And then that will be made on February the 1st and the new moon, which is also in bulk. After that, probably about 2 days after that, or even that night, I'll go ahead and bless the candle. I'm going to be offering a self-love community candle, which is 100% free. With that, though, with all my spell work and all my other ingredients, the only thing I'll need is your full name and your birthday. And with the honey jar, I'll need a small 1 to 2, 3 sentences of what you're trying to manifest throughout the year. And then that will go into the jar. And then for the month of February, I'm offering 2 different types of love magic, whether you're single and or already in a relationship. So, and as we get closer to February, I'll make a more in-depth video to post on here and then also add it to my services on my page. But yeah, I think that's it. I did recently make a short episode on my podcast talking about traditional witchcraft and like all of that. So you should totally check that out. And like I said, normally YouTube takes like 5 to 10 minutes, possibly a little bit longer to process this video. But within the next 20 to 30 minutes, I'll have the links to the podcast about the paranormal thing that I was talking about. That way, if y'all want to, y'all can listen or use background noise. But yeah, until then, thank y'all so much for everybody who has subscribed, who has joined me in this, who has liked, comment, all of that. Thank you so much. And I am so close to breaking 400 subscribers on my YouTube page. I'm super excited about that. Because my next step with that will be eventually breaking 1,000. And then after that, I have no idea. I guess 2,000. I like to set personal goals for myself. But anyways, until then, I will see y'all later. I hope you are all having a magical day. Please try to stay warm, dry, and or cool, depending on where you're at in the world. And yeah, until then, I'll see y'all later.